Boom! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Sakyan. Super excited to be talking about normalizing cannabis. We have an awesome guest for doing so, Jim McAlpine.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. I'm really excited. I'm so happy that you've founded and been running New West Summit, which is how I met you, emceeing for you the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We did partnership interviews this last year. Those were super fun. All of them are out now, which is great. They're all on the channel, guys. Go check them out. Great people. Steve D'Angelo.
I just watched
Lamar
Jimmy
Gordon,
Devine, my boy Jimmy.
Devine, yeah. Granddaddy Mike. So many cool people in that mix. And New West Summit, the world's leading cannabis tech conference, been doing that 4 years, founded 420 Games, and 420 Games has just been, again, normalizing cannabis, like really athletes that are going out running
4.20 miles, yeah.
Yep.
It's actually, a 5K is 3 miles, 3.1 miles actually, so we call it, not just to be kitschy, but we're going the extra mile for cannabis. So we run one more mile than those 5K people just to say, what? You know, we're not lazy.
Yeah. And so many other important, that you care so much about this for the sake of people that are addicted to opiates, people that are just destigmatizing it for like canna dads, like canna athletes. Like there's so many things that you do with speaking as well. And so this is great. I'm really looking forward to talking about all of this.
Thank you, my friend. Like I said before we went on camera, I feel like we're very, very lucky to be alive and experience and actualize this. I mean, if we were 10 years before or 10 years after, this is a very, very important time in history, and we're the ones who are getting to make that history. So I feel blessed. And
when we were talking to Granddaddy Mike and Steve D'Angelo, I mean, these guys were teaching us about the 50-year history leading up to this point, and it was blood, sweat, tears. It's a big deal getting to this point.
I like to make sure I always pay respect to those guys. I've been in the industry for 5 years. I've been more or less a consumer since I've been, I won't quote the age, but so I really like to pay respect to guys like Steve and Mike. And funny story, like when I started the 420 Games, I didn't know who Steve D'Angelo was or even Harborside because I hadn't really been in the industry.
And now you're wearing the hat.
Well, two days into it, I get an email from this guy, and I look his name, and his name is Steve D'Angelo, and I Googled him, and I was like, oh my God, this is a real dude. And I went and met Steve, and he was, from literally day one, Steve's one of the people I need to thank because he supported me like right from the get-go and been a mentor more or less.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, 420 Games is nuts. Like 5 cities a year. Okay, before we get there, let's talk about you. So born Stockton, then Atherton, so been around the Bay whole life.
Yep.
And then, like, how did you venture into cannabis?
Well, I'll make it a short story, but my past career was in the ski and snowboard industry, and we had a pretty severe 4-year drought where the lack of snow meant lack of revenue. And it really, really hurt me and my company financially. So making it very short, I one day said to my wife, I don't think my company's gonna be around much longer. I'm gonna drive up to Tahoe to our cabin. I'm gonna bring a bag of weed and I'm gonna smoke this until I figure out what my next job is. And when I sat down, before I'd even packed my bowl, Vice came on and it was a special called The Green Rush. And it like just slapped me across the face, and I sat up all night writing the business plan for the 420 Games that night, and smoking some weed.
Yeah. Well, what an interesting story. What was going on with the snow? 4 years of snow.
Well, it just didn't snow. I mean, there was a drought. You know, the huge California drought.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it was beyond the ski industry. It hurt everything in California, and probably partially why these fires have happened. And yeah, those 4 years were incredibly hard for the entire California agriculture and tourism, industry. But the ski industry, when it doesn't snow, Mother Nature dictates your fortune or lack of, and it was a bad few years.
Damn. And so Snowbomb was doing online lift tickets.
Yeah, kind of like the Fandango of skiing. You could buy your tickets online. They were cheaper as well, and just bring them with the barcode to the resort. So it was fun while it lasted. But I actually say that the one good thing that came out of the drought is it forced me to jump into this because I love what I'm doing now more than anything I've ever done.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good thing to hear when somebody is speaking with that much confidence and love for what they do. I love that. That's the type of energy that I want every human to feel on the planet like that. Like I wake up every day and I can love what I do. Like that's the best. Okay, so you wrote that business plan for 420 games, and then you got hit up by Steve D'Angelo in the first couple of days that you were working.
Yeah,
on
I put
this?
a post online or something, and he saw it, and contacted me right away.
And the first like city where you did this was
San Francisco.
Golden Gate Park.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And we have the graphic. Is that from the first year of?
I think the
Golden Gate
video
Park?
we have is from 2017 420 games, so a couple years ago.
Okay.
2 or 3 years ago.
Nice.
Actually, 3 years ago now that I
And
look
then
at it.
and then that's right in Golden Gate Park over by Cal Academy of Sciences.
It's the band shell area right in between there.
Yeah. Yep. And so now, like, okay, so walk us through, like, what is, there's so much in the normalization of cannabis by doing something like 420 games, but what was the big, like, aha for you for getting that rolling?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I am someone, up until I did this, for me, it was a coming out of the closet, if you will, because I've been an executive and an entrepreneur that sits with other executives and has to go to meetings. And, at the Christmas party, it's fine for everyone to get blacked out, but if you lit a joint, you'd be a pariah, So I felt like I'd had to live in the closet my whole life. I was a starting forward on my soccer team, starting pitcher. I was a good athlete. I wasn't a pro athlete, but I was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I always smoked weed before I played because it helped me get my mind right, And so for me, it was like a true passion in my heart, that a life that I lived. And it was an opportunity for me to kind of be, I always think of Spartacus, I stepped out first, but then someone sees me step out. And so now it's become a social movement, to be honest with you. Like, it was so interesting to the media when I first did this because no one had heard of this before. But now it's like there's literally a social movement of thousands and thousands of people that define themselves as Canna athletes, and they're proud of it. So I think it's an amazing thing to see where we've come.
Thousands of people are identifying as Canna athletes now. And
yeah.
Phelps was one of the first big ones, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I use Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt as one of my examples. So the fastest man in history in water and the fastest man in history in land are both known cannabis users. That makes a pretty large statement.
Boom,
yeah.
Just like that. Yeah, that's powerful.
And this is interesting. So I think if you look back in history, the one group of people that was culturally on some level allowed to use cannabis were the artists and the musicians because of their creativeness. Yes. And there's something called flow state. I don't know if you know what that is or not.
Sure.
But athletes go into flow state. When you're a top level athlete, you don't think, you do. Yeah. And so I think there's a very much a synergy or an analogy there between, like, they're the same thing. These artists, these athletes, they're using it as a gateway to flow state. And so it's not a gateway to worse drugs. It's really is something that helps you get your mind in a place of extreme focus.
Yes. So there's all these different uses for the different cannabinoids and the different dosages. The different methods of intake, ingestion or inhalation or topicals.
Yeah.
There's like so many methods now because they're all they can all kind of get you to different places. Some for this creative actualization, some for like really hyper like focus flow, some for completely medicinal. Yeah.
And you don't have to use it to get high. You can use CBD for your pain and not use the psychoactive component of the plant. And I'm a proponent of edibles because on the athlete side, the less smoke you take into your lungs, the better. And personally, I like the high of an edible that lasts longer and is a little more heavy hitting. So, multifaceted reasons for using the edibles.
So I mean, this is so they do the 4.2 mile run, and then.
We do yoga before. So we start off with yoga as a warm-up. We do the 4.20 mile run. We usually do a second yoga session. And then, in LA, this is the LA 420 games at the Santa Monica Pier here. We also this year had a 3-on-3 basketball tournament led by NBA professional Al Harrington.
Nice.
We had an arm wrestling contest led by Frank Shamrock and Boss Rutan, who are 2 heavyweight UFC champions. We had a skateboard contest at the legendary Venice Skate Bowl led by Bucky Lassick, who is a very, very big name.
Yeah.
And we had jujitsu. I mean, so it's not just running.
Oh,
like,
Joe Rogan would love to get behind
Joe, if I can get to you, Joe, come on, man. I've been trying.
Joe, let's get you out for the 420 games. Joe's a big role model for us.
Oh, I love Joe. Joe. I mean, I watch his podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the guy's a legend.
Let's get him on 420 games. Let's ask him again.
I'll keep knocking until he answers.
Let's knock. Yeah, dang, that's a good. You've had a major expansion in different sports. Like, that's huge. That's a lot of different sports.
Yeah, well, if you think of it too, like, my background is not necessarily team sports. I played in high school, but I went into being a skier and a snowboarder and a surfer. And so action sports are very different than team sports. And that's why I wanted to bring this whole side of like the X Games world into it as well. So we've got both these NFL and NBA guys, but then we've got Shaun White and all that kind of world as well. And they're both just as talented and amazing of athletes.
And then you have people playing a game of chess.
Yes, I always appreciated playing a little chess after some cannabis.
There's like everything from the crazy skateboarders and BMXers and stuff to jujitsu, and they're doing a keg. They're doing like moving around like heavy.
Yeah, we had kind of like CrossFit-y competitions where you'd carry big things and do like feats of strength, if you will.
Yeah.
And honestly, one other thing that there's a lot of top level high, like one of our runners is one of the top 3 ultra marathoners in the world. But this is not built just for extreme and professional athletes. Yeah. Like after they run, there's probably more people that actually either jog or walk the course. And I want to inspire people to get off the couch. And you don't have to go run. Like if you walk 4.2 miles, you get to burn the same amount of calories, you know? So it's just about moving, not being at the first to the finish line.
Yeah, that's a really important part of this message. Getting the actual movement out there, also setting a goal for yourself and going and making a statement, like in order to actually do what some people are challenged with weight and whatnot, and that message that you just said there is so powerful to get people moving. So it's crazy now because it's been 5 years and about 5 per year, so it's like 25 different events. Portland, Seattle, Denver, LA, SF.
San Diego, Pittsburgh, Boulder as well.
Yeah, that's big, that's huge. And then, so Civilized ended up
I'm honored to have a company like Civilized Life acquire us.
Yes.
I've always admired the quality of media that they put out, and it was a natural partnership because what they do through media and film is what I do through athletics, and we're normalizing cannabis, and we're putting a new face on it. And so it was I call it a Reese's peanut butter partnership because the chocolate and the peanut butter come together, and it's even better, you know.
We need more collabs like that where you can call it after Reese's or peanut butter and jelly, those really good ones.
Ham and egg,
yeah. This one's a really good one because Civilized is the kind of like you said, the perfect partner. They're really doing the normalization of cannabis.
They're going to take us international too because they're actually based in Canada as well as Los Angeles. So we'll have a Toronto 420 games this upcoming year, which will take us to the international status.
Boom. Yeah, that's exciting. So that's 420 games. 420 games is doing its normalizing cannabis. But then there's this, Civilized is doing their big sort of congress on the future of cannabis across the world. But New West Summit does its own, congress of tech and business folks in the industry. And so now that that's been rolling, you've seen quite a bit of, how many deals are probably done at, New West Summit every single year? Like a lot. Yeah,
it's really fun. Honestly, like in 4 years to watch the radical professionalization and just how everything has changed from not too long ago, it's really, really cool to see. And we've got a little bit of time still before the big, huge dollars come in, and it's going to be a different landscape. So right now, I don't want to call it a land grab, but I think people need to be very cognizant of what they're building, how they build it, because it's not going to be, around where all us little guys can be doing what we're doing for forever. So it's about positioning right now.
Yeah, it's totally about positioning. And Gary Vaynerchuk was just in LA doing. Yeah, Ron, you got a thought? Yeah, let's get you in.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I'm frightened, with this talk. So, yeah, it's scary. Because the war on drugs, we were talking about it earlier, they kill people. And now with decriminalization and industry and money to be made, it's always, money is the root of all evil. Well, not necessarily, but yeah, we're free-spirited talking like this. They'll kill us. They'll kill us. Shut your mouth there. Don't sound smart with this talk and positioning. That's strategic terms, strategy.
If I disappear, I want you guys to.
We know what's going on. Let's piggyback on that thought a little bit more. So you're talking about the last couple of years you've seen people actually start positioning and taking footing and building up their brands, and that's really cool to see that happening. And then you also kind of see this interest coming in from the big dogs. So
$4 billion was invested by Constellation Brands, which they own a lot of wine brands and other alcohol brands. So 4 with a B, I like to call that $4,000 million. And that was put into a company called Canopy Growth in Canada. And they're actually the parent, the lead investor in Civilized that acquired my event. So yeah, I mean, that's not playing around money, and that's a big alcohol company, and many others are circling around right now too. During this time, what I love, for the most part, is your heart matters still. In this industry, people don't want to work with the wrong people. I'll use a great example. There's a guy named Dan Balzerian. He's a big Instagram star.
Totally.
He's got a big beard, he's muscly, and he basically objectifies women and has girls in bikinis, and he doesn't put the face on being feminine the way I'd like to see it done. And no one will work with the guy. I mean, everyone I know and I've seen, he's launched his own cannabis brand.
He did,
and basically everyone's like, fuck you, Dan Balzerian, I don't want to work with you, you're an asshole. And
let's get a picture of him. No, can we do that? Isn't doxing the big thing? Can't we do that? Can't we show who he is?
Free plugs.
But I'm just saying, this guy, I never heard about him, and I share your opinion about, I'm anti-objectifying of women. I'm doing the best I can. I'm senior man here, so I grew up with that. It was normal for me in one way or another, so I'm trying to, gain that respect. And what the hell's this guy's name again? Yeah. I'll go find him and I'll get the damn picture.
Here, we'll show. Mm-hmm.
This is what you don't want to be when you're marketing your products in the cannabis or other industries.
This is his. He's a poker guy. He made his moolah doing poker. And so anyway, so he has a cannabis brand, and so there's a whole aspect of heart to this, which is if you keep around a strong, genuine intention of wanting to, like it was at the end of I think the show with Granddaddy Mike that we did, when he said that you're either, what did he say? You're either in it for the money or you're not, is what he said. And I think I'm pretty sure that's what it was like. But anyway, the point is that, you're either trying to come in here for the land rush, the gold rush, the canna rush, etc., or you're coming in here to try and,
There's something, I don't want to pick on you, Granddaddy Mike, but I will kind of give a different perspective, because I, and many others like Steve and Mike, all those guys, myself included, I think you, like the plant means something to us. The plant courses through my veins. Like I am cannabis, and I love cannabis, and I always have, and that's like, it's a passion to me, and you can feel it, and it is exuded in my work and what I do. Yeah. But there is something in America, and I would like to make a lot of money doing this as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a philosophy out there, pretty prevalent, that you can't make money while doing good, and I think the exact opposite should be the case. If you're able to do both, it's going to bring more good to this world. So to stigmatize people that are going to make money just because they're making money while doing good, it's basically saying, killing the desire to do that. So I think there's a real paradigm shift that needs to happen with that. This is
so interesting that we've started exploring the nuance of that statement, because there's There's the hyper, I'm in it for just the money. And there's the hyper, I'm in it for none of the money. And then there's this very interesting nuanced middle, which is I'm in it to make the world better and make money, and then make the money so that I can keep making the world better and keep doing things like
do good with the money we make and have
Exactly.
good ethics and morals around it. So that's the one thing in this industry, I guess, that I started saying is that I think we all are looking to make sure that we keep the good guys above board, and the bad guys get weeded out pretty quickly.
Pun intended. The bad guys get weeded out. That's a good one. So let's talk about the brand. So you got Canna Athlete, you got Canna Dads, you got what are the caramels under again?
So these caramels here, I've got 2 edible lines, and this first one is called Choose Love. They're really amazing line of different types of caramels. These are a vegan coconut caramel. And I partnered with a friend of mine. This is the product that I was buying and I liked, and I was like, I'm gonna go find the guy that makes this because I want to work with him, and he was a really cool guy. And we partnered, brought his brand under our brand, Canna Athlete, and now it's the 2 edible lines that we're selling and manufacturing. And they're good. I'm gonna eat one right now.
Yeah, and I'm too. And Ron already had his.
Yeah, I sure did.
Sure did. Yeah. Choose Love. Yeah, vegan coconut caramel. 5 milligrams CBD, 5 milligram THC. And this is, so interestingly enough, the 5 milligrammers they're like really good for a microdose of cannabis. These really don't get you to.
You're not going to be like sitting in the corner in that bad place where you've overdosed on an edible with 5 milligrams, that's for sure. I actually honestly tell most people 2.5 milligrams, if you're just starting, is probably a better place to start. So you just really avoid having any form of too much psychoactivity.
I just ate half. And it's really good.
Thank you.
It's really good.
It doesn't taste. It tastes like a caramel.
Yeah, no, it's really well made. That's why I was drawn to it, because it's kind of dangerous because they taste so good. You're like, maybe I will have one more.
One more, and you gotta wait. How long do you gotta wait? Like 30, 40 minutes before?
Yeah, I would say like with a true edible product, like when you're eating it, it's closer 45 minutes to an hour-ish.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then with our spray, this is called Canna Athlete. It's I like to use the word activated instead of getting high. So this is called our activation spray that's made for focus. It's microdosed at 1 milligram of THC and 1 milligram of CBD. So it's 5 times more of a microdose than the caramel we were just talking about. So it's built to literally you will not get high if you squirt this once in your mouth, and you can really calculate how much you want to use and get yourself where you want to be very specifically.
Yep. Are you guys the first ones that are making I haven't seen a mouth spray yet, or through the mouth.
There's 1 or 2 others out there, but this one, which is an MCT coconut oil, is very formulated with specificity to athletes. I don't think there's really anything else out there like that. There's another kind of breath spray out there, but it's kind of for a different purpose.
Again, this is big for athletes because they can just go, pop out and done, and you're right back in, and it's not harmful for their lungs.
Yeah, and this is technically what they call on some levels tincture, or somewhat like a tincture, because you can spray this right under your tongue and it'll go into your bloodstream quicker. So as opposed to that, you'll probably feel this within, call it 30 minutes versus an hour. So that the activation into your bloodstream goes quicker when you're spraying it. It's called sublingually.
Sublingually.
Yes.
Nice. So that's what, see, I learned something new every day. Yeah, it's sublingual. Interesting. So you have different, pass me that one.
Yep.
You have different, here's a 1 milligram spray. This is a 10 milligram spray.
Yes.
So that's a big jump. So that's order of magnitude.
That's my private reserve. That's not on the market. That's just for daddy. I have a high tolerance. So.
Yeah. Because you can pop a couple sprays of this one, and you're I'm gonna do a spray of the one.
Yeah.
This is unflavored MCT oil.
Correct.
Yeah. And MCT oil is big for all the people that care about their health nowadays.
Yeah, bulletproof coffee and all that stuff. So
Okay, let's do this. So this one's unflavored, but this one's peppermint flavored.
Yeah, these are sample models, so we just had a different, few different lines to try. I like the peppermint because it's got that little burn to it, and it feels more medicine-y when you do it.
Yeah.
Discreet and easy. So, it's a brand new one, so you had a little air in the tube there.
Just like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Nice. So this is awesome. Now can people go actually we have it up right here. So on Canna Athlete, getcannaathlete.com, and the link's in the bio too. We have the webpage up here. Now, can they place an order online?
No, well, technically, through other services, you can get online orders or order delivery, but since we're actually the manufacturer, we're not technically able to sell it to the general public. It has to go through the retail channels. Okay. So we produce it in Oakland, and then we're actually just coming to market, and so we're not actually in dispensaries yet, but it's in the final stages of being distributed, mostly in Northern California, and then we're going to be focusing on Southern California. But the markets are so different that we're really just distributing in Northern California right now.
No, Jim, is the case that you can't distribute through the internet yet? Is that you can't do direct to consumer via?
Well, you can if you have a retail license. So it's a very, very interesting regulatory market with cannabis, and when I say interesting, I mean fucked up.
Yeah.
So the laws change all the time, and we've been very much over-regulated. With any new thing like this, you have to expect that regulations are going to be at the highest level and then slowly come down. But it's a bit of a shit show, and there's a lot of people, including myself, that are still struggling to figure out how to be compliant, which is a very important piece of the puzzle. So. Yeah, we've got another year or two as a producer of cannabis products. It's very confusing, and it's not easy to work with the state of California right now. So we're moving in the right direction, but very slowly and very painfully, to be honest with you.
And what are those obstacles when we're dealing with the state and this whole process?
So there's something called the Bureau of Cannabis Control, and there's a lady named Lori Ajax that runs that. And I'm not pointing a finger or faulting her in any way, shape, or form. It's much bigger than any one person. But there are so many different rules, and many of them just don't make sense. And so what they've done, and this makes sense to me, it's like alcohol. If you make beer or you make spirits, you don't sell that direct. You have to find a distributor to sell that. So just like in alcohol, if you produce cannabis, you have to find a distributor and have a distributor distribute for you. Or you can get your own distribution license and become what's called vertically integrated, which would mean, you produce your own flower and you turn it into product and then you distribute it. And if you're fully vertically integrated, you would also own a dispensary. So from flower to shelf, you own the whole process, which is the smartest way to do it. I'm unfortunately not at that stage, and I'm just a product producer.
Mm-hmm. Now, you bring up California Bureau of Cannabis Control. I have so many other questions, but so the Bureau of Cannabis Control, established as the Bureau of Marijuana Control under Prop 64, is an agency of the state of California within the Department of Consumer Affairs charged with regulating medical cannabis in accordance with state law pursuant to the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. And then the agency was charged with creating rules for the legal non-medical market to take effect January 1st, 2018.
It's funny they call it non-medical, because I don't like the word recreational when they describe non-medical use.
And what would you prefer as a word, just cannabis use in general?
I mean, technically, personally, I feel like almost all use is medicinal, even though people don't really realize it. Most people use cannabis for a reason. They come home, their back hurts or their head hurts, and they're using it for a result that makes them feel better. So that's medicinal to me. So I would say the vast majority of people that think they're recreational cannabis users are more technically medicinally using it. Sure, there's people that just like to take 16 bong hits and lie on the couch, but that's not your typical cannabis user, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Paint that picture.
Yeah, that's the normalization. So Lori was actually referred to in multiple media outlets as the state's cannabis czar. Do you
The term czar is a weird one to me too, especially with all this Russia stuff going on and whatnot. It's like, I've never liked that term czar.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so she was appointed by the governor. Interesting. So there, who was it? It was Steve D'Angelo that was saying on our show. He said that why isn't there a board of like medical scientists that are that work directly with the Bureau of Cannabis Control? That way, there could be more objective sort of.
And that's what's slowly starting to happen, not at this level, but using an example of where you're going with it. You know, federal research has always been illegal, and there's been so many barriers to actually studying the plant. Yeah. So for example, UCLA has something called the CRI, it's called the Cannabis Research Institute. And so technically at UCLA, they're doing some top level research. And prior to that, it was, the only place it was really done was a couple places. I think it was in Mississippi. And the studies were pretty subpar because of they didn't have good product to be studying because they couldn't access it. So the world is moving to a point where we've got more data, more research, and with that comes more knowledge to change these laws. So it's slow and it's kind of that cyclical process, but it's starting to happen, and the more data and empirical data that we have, we can use that to kind of change these laws slowly.
Yeah. And then on a global scale, there's the United States, unfortunately, and especially California, was such a pioneer in just driving this forward globally, but because the US is lagging behind in terms of legalization, the United States is losing the big money and the big money leads to the big like educational increases and infrastructure increases and medical increases and all this stuff around the world. And so, other companies are going public in Canada.
Canada's kind of kicking our ass right now. They're ahead of us in the way they've structured things. And yeah, so that's an interesting thing. A lot of the Canadian companies are coming down and buying, American stuff and investing money here. There's some weirdness legality with that I'm not, I'm not a big, huge investor guy, but it's an interesting time because Canada's got a lot of power right now. There's some huge public companies up there that have a lot of money, and it's interesting. Those companies are shipping cannabis internationally. I always found that really interesting. Like Canada's shipping marijuana to Germany, and there's some really interesting stuff that I would have always thought was illegal, but the world's changing.
World's changing, just like that, shipping legally across the world. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
South Korea just legalized medical cannabis. I think yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, I believe South Korea is like the 11th or 12th largest economy in the world. So that's a huge one. Yeah, most people don't think about it.
What I don't understand is why can't this just crumble the walls completely, not just of cannabis, but all drug uses, because they're doing at MAPS. Is it Rick Doblin? And the research he's done and the benefits there as psychedelics as a medicine, cannabis as a medicine. Now, I don't want to go too deep because we have an awful crisis right here in our back in regards to opiates. However, the war on drugs has to be something else, and granted, cannabis is harmless compared to some other drugs that are available that are causing havoc and mayhem for so many people.
All drugs should be legalized. They'd need to be heavily regulated, of course, and you wouldn't have access to just go buy them anywhere. But technically, all drugs should be legalized, in my opinion. It's stupid not to have that philosophy. So,
teach us about how you would handle that philosophy.
Oh wow! That's a pretty big ask for me.
You got to speak about it, and I'm reluctant to speak about it because
what would that look like? With the heavy regulation, but still with the completely legalization as well.
Well, let's pick a specific. Let's use heroin, I guess, or something like that. Sure.
Yeah, what would it look like exactly? That's a great question, because I hope it doesn't look like what it looks like in the back here.
Well, let's think of it like this: we're halfway there with we're basically giving safe needle sites and safe injection sites and allowing, on some level, giving people a space to go do drugs. You're not legalizing it, but you're making it safer for those people that choose to do that. So that's kind of the why I say that. You can create an overall better environment for the world. And again, you're not going to let people just have access to this like it's rampant and all of a sudden drugs are for sale everywhere and it's legal. It would be incredibly regulated, and you know, I don't really think I'm going to be straightforward. I'm not eloquent and educated enough on the subject to lay out for you exactly how to implement that. But in the 30,000 foot view, I just see and understand why that would make sense.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see if someone could summarize it in a pretty...
Richard Branson does a great job.
He does a good job.
He spoke at New West 2 different years, and he's really where I kind of picked up that whole philosophy and listened to him speak about it, and he speaks about it better than I.
Yeah. Interesting. So the complete legalization and regulation of all drugs, very, very interesting. So I would love to see how that plan looks completely laid out. Now, I just want to actually get to what like Canadads, and also you're speaking around the United States on opioids as well. So teach us about this.
So that's been amazing for me because I'll give a quick background. Like, it's going to be relative, but I'll start off with I have had 13 people I know commit suicide. And suicide happens because of depression. That's really what leads people to that place. And honestly, the opiate addiction in America is leading people into depression and then therefore into suicide. Suicide rates are off the charts, and I'm not blaming it completely on opiates, but to me personally, I've had not only 13 people I know die of suicide, I know many, many people who've had their lives ruined by opiate addictions. And so to me, what I've learned, because I work with a lot of professional athletes, especially football players, they would sit with me and be like, dude, we had no other option. We had to take these pills because we're in so fucking much pain. And if we use cannabis, we're going to lose our jobs or be fined, and it's a nightmare. So they are literally forced into this, career of having to eat pills like M&Ms just to be able to wake up and function. And it's a very, very unfair thing, and that's at the highest level. And then as you trickle down through America, there's a place for opiates. It's probably 90% overprescribed. If you're in extreme, excruciating pain in the hospital and you've broken all your legs, I mean, there's a place for it. But so many people and the doctors and pharmaceutical industry are really the ones that are complicit and the ones that have made this happen, and it's profit over anything. So yeah, we educate through a very specific manner. I bring all these athletes, they tell their stories. It's kind of me as the average Joe, and they're the top pros because I've had my experience. And then it's correlated by a doctor. We've got 2 or 3 different doctors that travel with us. And the one that pops out most to me is we had 400 physicians at Harvard Medical School sitting enthralled listening to us. And what some of the doctors came and said to me after was like, can I get your card? And they told me basically, like, we learn nothing about any of these other alternatives in medical school. Like, it is absolutely not there for us. And yeah, so it's a great way using pro athletes to kind of exemplify the overarching problem of opiates with that kind of NFL example. But at the end of the day, if I went to my doctor and said, oh, I hurt my finger, he'd be like, here's some Vicodin or here's some Percocet, and wouldn't think twice about it. And it disgusts me, to be honest with you. And so I want the world to understand cannabis is a very, very safe alternative to opiates. And if it's done right, it really does help you manage pain.
Do that one more time. In that camera, ready? Go. Action. say that one more time again. That was a good soundbite.
Which one did you want me to say?
Right there. And that, yeah, exactly what you said. Say it again. Look into the camera and ready.
So cannabis is a very, very viable alternative to opiates. And well, now I don't.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's all right. I understand. Yeah, I know. I know. My bad. Sorry, but it was good. It was good. You were speaking how you weren't eloquent, and I disagree. I think you're doing a great job here.
It was a very, very good bit, and it still is ringing in my head so profoundly. I'm just just going right now. It's just like, oh my goodness, having medical doctors just be like, we were never told about these things. And that to me is like, uh-oh.
Well, I mean, delineating two things. Western medical culture, in my mind, is awful. It's horrible. It's a pharmaceutical culture, and it's about money. And the Western medical philosophy is, I'm going to be a fat ass, I'm going to eat the wrong food and not exercise, and then give me a pill to fix myself. And the Eastern philosophy is food is medicine. What you put in your body is medicine. Herbs are medicine. What you eat is going to make a difference in how you live. And so I love the Eastern philosophy of holistic health and medicine versus taking a white pill because you made bad decisions for 15 years, or 20 or however many years.
Well, that's great, because China's just about ready to take control of everything. Perfect. No, I don't know. The baby that just came out, that CRISPR baby, and, just the political conflicts.
Overarching Eastern philosophy. China was not mentioned in the statement.
Yikes.
When you bring up this sort of when you bring up what the East has been embodying for so long in its thousands of years of history, and the way that a child is then educated by these principles will then guide that child in a more fruitful future for society. Thank you, Ron. And so I'm really happy that you're bringing it forth as this, like, holy shit, look at this main difference between taking the white pill to solve the issues that we just don't give a shit about versus digging into the thousands of years of history and love and, science and spirituality to really dig us into, oh my God, I can let the medicine be the food, let food be thy medicine, and let that process become you.
And our medicine, you could integrate the two, because at the end of the day, not to completely disparage Western medicine, because there's some amazing things with surgery and aspects that can save many, many lives.
That's right.
But that should be used as a last resort or as a complement to the Eastern philosophy, not as the first line of defense.
Exactly, yeah. Not the profiteering has gone nuts.
Have you heard, so that one of the companies that is really more or less responsible for much of the opiate addiction, I don't know if it's Pfizer or Plaxo, it's a family actually that's underneath that, but they actually have an opiate, if you overdose, it brings you back, and they just raised the price of this opiate overdose pill 800%.
Oh yeah, that's right, the pill that when you go too high, it brings you.
It saves your life if you're in an opiate addiction.
They raised it 800% the price of it?
Yeah, just because they could. And I think there's some federal stuff going on in terms of an inquiry about that. But, these companies basically addict the entire country to opiates, and then now they're going to start selling, pills to fix that addiction. And the pharmaceutical industry to me are the true fucking drug czars and drug dealers, and the pharmaceutical industry to me is pure evil, quite honestly.
We're gonna get killed. Stop, Jim. They're
fuck
gonna
you,
come
Pfizer,
get us.
come for me. I don't care. And if no one's gonna shut me up on that. And I'll say it like this: if the pharmaceutical industry, if I came and said, "Look, this pill, and we'll give you the formula, will make everyone healthy and they'll never get sick again," they will lock it in a fucking safe and never let us find it, because they want to sell us all their bullshit other pills, and they don't care about us. And it's a very evil industry.
Well, who the Christ are they that don't care about us? That's what we got to get to, Jim. That's the bottom line. All the obstacles, it's something out there, and it's real, and it lives inside each and every one of us, and it's never going to reveal itself. And we have to, how do you change the minds? When they know very well what they're doing. Everything that we, say is not logical, they are aware of that. And they don't want you to figure it out. Yeah. And that's where it gets tricky. And we talk about they. Who are they? Who the fuck are you? Are you?
Who is the they that is putting it in the cage, the miracle solution to some of these problems, in the cage, so that they can feed us crap along the way and make money and keep us ignorant? Who is that they? What is channeling through them? What is that negative energy that is channeling through them?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, there's people in this world that don't give a fuck about other people, is what it comes down to, really, right? I mean, you're either going to care about the world and others, or you're going to look out for yourself and no one else, and that's that crowd. And I don't think any of us are that crowd, and if I disappear, then, you know, I guess I disappear, but fuck the fucking pharmaceutical industry.
It's the good guys and the meanie pants. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you'll find our show is so based on nuance, and so when we talk about this, I think to myself, like, this is one of those conversations that has nuance, but it's so heavily skewed in the direction of people that just are trying to force feed us crap rather than the actual solution of food and herbs and care and exercise and all this other kind of stuff. So it's so far skewed in that direction. So okay, so now what about Canadads?
So Canadads is just a passion project of mine. One of my partners in Can Athlete, his name's Sebo Shen. He and I started it. We kind of became quick friends because we both have 2 daughters, and I guess ultimately, you know, dads kind of, I don't want to say get the short end of the stick, but you don't really think about a dad and being really engaging with your kids. It's usually like you think of the mom, and I believe as a dad, like, we need to spend more time with our kids, you know?
Totally.
And it's really important to have that male role model. So what I believe personally is cannabis makes me a better father. And I use a little bit of cannabis. Well, I'll say it like this. When I used to come home from work, before I would kind of use cannabis at the level I do now, I'd pour some bourbon or whatever, and I'd be like, you know, hey, leave me alone, or, you know, I want to just kind of tune out. And if I smoke a little cannabis, I tune in, and I'm on the ground playing with my kids, and I'm building a castle, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So it really does. It makes me a better father, and it makes my time with my children, it makes me enjoy it and be really more engaged with them. So we have a page on Facebook. It's called Canadads. It's got over 2,000 members, and basically we just put up inspirational posts about what we do with our kids, pictures of us out with our kids. And there's usually some pictures of cannabis, and, you know, marijuana grows on there as well. But it's mostly about how to be a better dad, and we just kind of support each other.
Canadads.
Let's see.
Is it this one?
No.
No,
oh,
it's Canadads United.
We got some impersonators.
Oh, here, it's this one. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, the one where you're... Okay, awesome. I'm making a join group request. All right, good. Pending. Nice. So let's see... here's the page.
That's my house in Tahoe. We just went skiing with the daughters.
Skiing with the daughters.
Nice.
Look at that door, though. Oh my God, it's so dope. So dope.
It's a little hobbit hut. Yeah, there was a group. I was inspired by a group called Canna Moms, and there's a lot of support out there in the community for moms around cannabis, and just there wasn't much dialogue about dads. That's my daughter right there too. But I'm actually pleased to see there's other Canna Dads groups. I don't take that offensively. Like, I think there should be as many as we can get out there. It's awesome. Yeah,
actually, you bring up this really, really good point, and I want to actually amplify the point even further. So the point to me is that, you know, there's some good pics to look at for now. That there's this sort of ability to take some cannabis and tune into the present moment with your kids, and also have this sense of awe that comes again from being a kid and playing with the things that they're playing with and that they're like learning and experiencing. So when you're there with them, you know, that's the real dad, you know, being there in those moments. I love that. That's like that's you know, that's an inspirational.
And with or without cannabis, you just touched on something. Like, intrinsically, the most important thing in the world to me is being a father. When I'm put in the ground, I want nothing more than to say he was an amazing dad and husband. Yeah, just being engaged with your kids, with or without cannabis, makes you young again. It brings you back in your mindset to see through that lens that your kids see things, and it's an incredible feeling to kind of watch them and then, you know, relive that as you see them grow up.
Because, you know, when you see this, you think about when you played soccer, right? Because I see it, I think about when I played too, you know? And then there you go, you're there, you know.
Oh, I'm that dad on the sideline too. I'm the guy that's just screaming. My daughter looks at me and she's like, "Shut up, Dad."
Shut up, Dad.
So fun.
Yeah. So then let's talk a bit about Aura Ventures. Okay, so now where is Aura going? Because this is since July for you as the president, and they acquired New West Summit. So yeah, where are you going with this consultancy and full service firm? So what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I have a really, really intelligent partner. Her name's Jennifer Sanders.
Shout out Jennifer Sanders.
Shout out Jennifer. And she founded an amazing line and I guess franchise, for lack of a better term. It's not technically a franchise, called Green Heart. So there's a product line, and there's actually some brick and mortars in Oregon and just opening in Las Vegas. And so she's created this amazing, and what I love about this line is it's not just cannabis. Like, she has an ashwagandha line in the Green Heart. And
what's that?
It's another set of herbs that you can use in a tincture form, and there's other herbs outside of cannabis that can be complement, just kind of on that Eastern philosophy. Like, you know, I mean, turmeric is good for inflammation. And there's so many things that she's kind of added in, where cannabis is one component of the line, but it's not just the line. And I think holistic wellness is really the word for like where that is going. It's not just about cannabis. It kind of places cannabis alongside all these other wellness tools. So that's a business that she started that falls underneath Aura. And we're bringing on top tier clients in the industry to really help from an outside professional facet. Like, we've brought in someone from William Morris Entertainment that's working with us, and we're using data from big data companies. So we're coming into some of the bigger companies and that don't have the staff to do this, and helping them kind of reiterate who and what their companies are. We're helping produce events. We're actually rebranding an entire town up in Canada. It's a sovereign nation. I can't say the name of it right now, but we were hired to help. It's like an Indian nation in Canada, and it's sovereign, to help them rebrand their town. And there's some benefits because you can actually produce cannabis, you know, in a sovereign nation without some taxes that you'd have to pay otherwise. Whoa. So yeah, and we're really looking just for those top tier clients and focusing on how to help them scale and grow their businesses and hitch our ship really to the, you know, the A-list players.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, you're at the top of the fitness landscape right now, just working with all the different orgs, aiming to do that as it keeps growing and blowing up. So that's very smart, very smart. I want to powwow on a couple thoughts that towards the end of the show, you were like, you know, I'm known as an amazing father and husband. That's what you care about.
I hope I am.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This intention to just be, you know, that. For a mom and a dad, for their kids, for the kids to grow up and have that intention to be good stewards of earth and each other. We talk about that so much. So I'm really happy that that's something that's so core to you, and it makes me feel really good.
Well, that's why I was driven to you, and I enjoy your company so much. I think that you are turning over so many stones and enlightening so many people by having amazing guests on your show. So I'm one of your, what do you call it?
Patrons,
patron supporters, and I watch your show all the time, and I just think you ask great questions and you really talk about things that matter. So I appreciate your show and you a lot.
Thank you so much. And holy cow, we wouldn't be anything without the brilliant people that get to sit there and you know, the diverse minds.
Yeah, thanks
for
sitting
Mike
down
Harden
with
on
us.
here. Mike Harden introduced us, so I want to give Mike Harden a shout out.
Huge shout out to Mike Harden, our leading patron, and also shout out to Big Rock, Sonoma Hills Farms. Like, shout out to all of their orgs that are just fruit blossoming up. You know, we've. Artist is right across the street, so I told him, he was like, just like come by, like we'd love to. Mike is a great mind for the show. I'm really excited to make that happen at some point. So on that note of, like, you know, having this care for each other, this care for Earth, we like to ask a couple questions towards the end of the show.
All right.
Okay. First question is, do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
No, I don't.
Tell us why.
I think it's just from a desperate desire to not want to be alone in the cosmos, to be completely honest. I don't have any you know, strong spiritual reasoning why I think there's something else out there. In my mind, the universe is so vast and expansive that to think that we're the only things or intelligent beings out there is just, you know, I can't get my head around that. So, and like I said at the start, I think out of a desire to not want to be the only ones out there.
What do you think exists past the third dimension?
Wow. Huh. I don't know. Why don't I turn this around on you and you tell me what you think
we
is past
ask the
third
questions on the show.
No, but what's past, I mean, what kind of question is it? What's past the third dimension? How about the fourth and the fifth?
That's
and
a
then
pretty
sixth?
fucking hard question,
You know,
man. I want to hear what you think on that one. I got to hear something
that's a
from
good
you.
one. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's past the third dimension.
It's good that
Are you
we
going to ask me math questions
at
now
least,
after this?
you know, if we know the extent of our own ignorance, at least that's a good thing to do. You know, so if you can at least say I don't know, that's a good thing to be able to say. You know, do you think we're in a simulation?
No.
You think this is base reality?
Well, when you say simulation, kind of like what Elon Musk brought up in terms of like
Sure.
we're living in a true virtual reality or something along those lines.
Sure.
No, I don't. I can't get my head around that philosophy. You know, I think Elon's an intelligent man, and I would listen to that philosophy to learn more. So I wouldn't like dig my heels in on it. But you know, right now, if you ask me that, it's a pretty firm no. I don't believe that. Do you? I mean, the show's called Simulation, my friend. You like how I turn these around?
Busted. Yeah. Every one of our last questions, Jim's like, "No, you answer." It's a lot of nuance. It's a good question. It's a good question. I like asking it. What do you think's the most beautiful thing in the world?
Love.
Tell us why.
It's just an undeniable force, and you know, I feel sad because I think some people don't have love in their lives and they don't feel it, and I feel really lucky to have so much love in my life. And love is truthfully to me what will continue to make the world go round, and it's why humanity is here. You know, humanity is two things. Humanity is beautiful. It's awesome. Like it's why we're here in this crazy simulation. Maybe not. But humanity is very, very violent and sad and stark as well. You know, there's such a vast definition of what humanity is, and there's good and bad to it. So. I mean, I think love is the basic grounding force in everything in human life. And so if you don't have love, I don't think you really have anything. So to me, that's the most important thing, you know, force in my life. And I think that's what I get and why I love my family so much. But yeah, without love, you know, I don't think I'd want to be around in the world.
Yeah. Is there a different classification of love for your family than there is for humanity? How do you do that?
Well, there's unconditional love for my family and my kids. You know, there's nothing they could do to change that. And I think humanity, you can question your faith at many times. I doubt I will ever have to question my love for my family. It's just so innate and so in me that there's just it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, the human experiment, like you were saying, is kind of nuts with like darknesses at the same time as the lights.
Well, it's, you know, there's two things I love right now: the feminist movement and see the empowerment of women, and also men. Like, I mean, I'd been embarrassed my whole life to admit a lot of things. Like, I cry a lot, you know. Like, I will start crying at movies, like the weirdest things. I have to hide it, you know. Now I don't really care, and I just let it flow. But like, I'm a crier, you know, and I never would have wanted to say that on film, but I feel totally comfortable about that. And emotions, like being a man, you're told like hide your emotions. Like, I think the opposite. You're a true man if you show your emotions. You know?
That's right. That's right. I love it. What? Yeah, Ronnie.
It just when I weep as well, and when I do, it just reminds me that my heart is still alive, and there are things I still care about, and I weep at the most peculiar instances. So
it can feel good too.
Yeah,
you know, it's a cathartic thing at times to do that.
You know, there's a lot of sadness among there, and I'm glad I'm attuned to that and want to do something about it, but it's just sort of difficult because, you know, the dark villain is just so strong, so smart, and is not appreciating this conversation at all. They're going to shut our shit down. You know, we think we have trouble with this machine that, you know, since we bought it. It's not the machine. It's the goddamn gremlins. It's they. It's them. But this was a fun show. And
this was really powerful. I liked it a lot. We're normalizing cannabis. Let's do it together, everyone. Let's do it. Yeah, we got a joints being lit right now. Getting the ball rolling. Ronnie's gonna join in.
Do a little puff.
Boom!
Thank
there
you
it
for
is.
having me,
Yeah, Jim, this has been such a freaking pleasure. You are amazing. We're very grateful to have had you. Ronnie's coming on over.
What is this? A sativa or an indica?
It's a blend.
Getting the shot, Ron. Getting the shot. There it is. There he is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Boom.
Done.
Boom. And I'm actually feeling pretty good from this.
Feeling a little bit from that?
Feeling it, yeah. But it's like just that 2-3 milligram.
You're activated.
Activated. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, exactly. Feeling good, feeling great, and also feeling like we need to spread the normalization of cannabis message around the world. As you've seen here with Jim McAlpine, you got everything from Canadads to getting away from the opioid crisis that's going on to getting the popularization of technology with cannabis at New West Summit, at the 420 Games. Go and hit it up in your city. Go and travel to the cities where 420 Games is happening.
Said hit it up.
Said hit it up, said hit it up, said hit it up.
I hope Bella's not watching.
And yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, not bad.
Good stuff, yeah. And let's get to the normalization across the world, everyone. Let's get there as soon as possible. Think about the economics in terms of the US should be at the forefront of doing the research on the medical side. We have so much to still do. Let's get there together, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Give us your comments below. We'd love to hear from you about the episode. Also, go and create, go and build, go and make cool things. Manifest your destiny into the world, everyone. Thank you, Ron, for producing and directing. Much love, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Peace.